The new highway.
Oh, no, that's, you've seen that one in part 2. There's one or two jokes sometimes, I say, and the next slide. We're telling the one about that duck down there. Now, nowadays, of course, you go along the road, as I say, we went to Chippenham this afternoon, but you can go from Swindon to London down that M4 in about an hour and a quarter. But next time you do, and you come up to junction 14, Hungerford and Wantage, remember what I said. I know an old gentleman who probably passed over now. When he was a young lad of about 5 or 6, about 90 years ago, he can remember his mother saying to him, and he told me, his mother said, "Cyril, we must get out of Hungerford as quick as we can. There's a lot of badness in Hungerford, a lot of badness and evil around here." Now Cyril remembered that. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he spent most of his adult life in India before he come back to Ealing, West London, and retired there. And perhaps his mother was right, because what happened in Hungerford? Michael Ryan went round 10, 12, 13 years ago killing all those people. 10 years ago this month, just outside Hungerford on that motorway, they had that big car accident and 10 people got burnt to death. In Littlecut House, sadly, when the D'Urberville family lived there, that newborn baby was sadly murdered by throwing on the fire in the nursery, which is still haunted. And if you ever ask me back for part 4, I'll tell you the story of the 2 policemen who got murdered at Folly Crossroads. Have you never heard of that? The 2 policemen at Folly Crossroads? Oh, that'd be another story. But remember, and Cyril said, people will always go hungry in Hungerford, and people will always want in Wantage, and there will always be war in Warminster. Anyway, all is not doom and gloom and sadness. We go off in Hungerford and have a look round there for a few slides. The lovely church of St Lawrence's. It's on the north side, it's the canal with little ducks. And of course, when they built the railway on the south side, on the railway they could move goods, coal, milk, straw, animals and people much faster than the canal did, so canals fell into disrepair. There's a duck there. And I must point out now, I'm going to make, oh look, Beryl, where did you get this? Oh. Oh. Yeah, this is what is it, a duck or a swan? Whatever it is. For the viewers, this was on the floor. There's a duck there. And did I tell you the story of the duck who went into Lloyd's Chemist just at the top of the road? You see, a duck waddled from Queen's Park, and it waddled up into this chemist on the corner, and the duck took her little signet, her babies in, and the mummy duck says to the lady in the chemist, "Can you sell me something, because my duck's got sore lips?" Sore lips. The lady in the chemist says, "Yes, I'll sell you some lip seal." Mother duck says, "Oh, thank you very much." Quack, quack. The lady in the chemist said, "How are you going to pay?" Mother, are you going to pay cash or credit? Mother duck says, "No, put it on me bill."
Ducks don't have signets, that's smart.
Don't they?
You want your stick again?
Stick.
You don't need
Ducks. No, we don't. Okay, so that diverted it. Hungerford, lovely, peaceful. You can have a picnic there, but in the churchyard where they people are, I've only just noticed that. Cyril says, "Come and see this gate. It's an unusual gate. It's a rare gate." So I said, "All right then." So next slide. This is the gate to get into the consecrated ground, and us humans can get in there, but superstition has it the witches used to come in there to claim their souls or indeed pinch the water, as I said earlier. So this is a gate to fool the witches so that they can't come into the churchyard. And how does it open? It doesn't open outwards or inwards, so witches can't do that because they're not as clever or sensible as what we are. But us humans can get into this gate. And with the help of my daughter Sarah, when she was 16-year-old, the next slide, she'll show you how to open it. You press it down, and they weights counterbalance, so you cock your leg, you'd hop over. It's an unusual, rare gate, probably the only one in the country, and that's in St. Lawrence, is it? Hungerford. Sarah, she's now 24 years old nearly, and married and got a grandson named Joseph. But of course, when I took that slide, I didn't know that she'd get married and have children. And so some bright spark said in a slideshow recently, well, how do they manage about getting the coffin over? Or the bride in her nice big white dress? Well, they got another big gate up the top, but this is the tradesman's entrance. It's the back entrance, but it's an unusual gate, and you don't see many of them, if any. And the next slide. One good thing about doing a slideshow in here, as long as you don't get bored, we have got about an hour and a quarter of that tape, so hopefully I don't have to rush it, you know, make it interesting. Right, anybody heard of Maud Heath? Maud Heath's monument, this is the top of Wick Hill, the other side of Cowan. It's on the Wick Hill in between Cowan near Bremill. It's a bit out of the area. Maud Heath, she was a widow in the 15th century. She went around the lowland where there's lots of water and bogs, selling cabbages, apples, anything she could sell. And late told me this afternoon she thought it was, she went around selling linen and material, but I think it was fruit and vegetables, cabbages, turnips and so on. She went around the lowland around Bremill, Langley Borough, onto Chippenham Market, selling her ware. And she sat down up there, it's not starved, carved of course. She got a basket there, carved, but that was put up in 1823 by a very influential vicar named Mr. Bowles. He was a poet and writer, and he liked doing things like that. So he put that up there in 1823 to celebrate Maud Heath. She went all round the lowlands, as I said, but when she was dying, she said, I want to leave all my money and my house, that they will build a causeway over the low river where she used to get her feet wet. Anyway, when she died, they sold her house and got the money, and they built a causeway, which is a very famous Maud Heath causeway, so that the travellers nowadays, they can walk across it. The next slide. That's her causeway. Up the road 2 miles, that's where her statue is, the top of Wick Hill, and she's looking northwest down all over the lowland towards Chippenham. That's a Hercules flying over to land at RAF Lynham. But this is what she built, the causeway. Now, this don't get flooded as much as it used to, but if it did get flooded, you walk along the top so you don't get wet. Now, standing there, the next slide, that's the view you get, looking down on the road. That road to go round towards Chippenham. There's another statue there put up by Mr. Bowles, because he liked carving. He was not a vandal, but he liked to write and carve and inscribe everything. It's an unusual sundial with 3 faces. The next slide. Right at the bottom, we'll talk a bit about later. You don't get many sundials with 3 faces. Depends on the season. Spring, summer, autumn, it tells you the more accurate time. The next slide. So it was about 3 o'clock when I took that slide. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and so on. But that was in May. Now there's right in there, I don't expect you can see it, but it says in the Old English when they used S's instead of T's or T's instead of whatever, it says, haste travellers, the sun is sinking now, he shall return again, but never thou. In other words, hurry up and get home because it's getting dark. But you don't see many sundials with 3 faces. Now, down the bottom, next slide, that's self-explanatory. It does say, to the memory of worthy Maud Heath of Langley Borough, widow, when in the year of grace 1474, for the good of travellers, did in